Hello guys, welcome back. So in the past few lectures, we have seen like how we can understand a problem and how we can relate it with some concrete examples, how we can break it down into some sub problems, right? So now in this lecture, we'll see like how we can solve or simplify those sub problems, right? So let's understand a little bit about what is solve or simplify. So let's say you have broken down a problem into sub problems, right? And if you are confident about it, then you will directly jump in to solve it, right? That's fine. Okay. But if you have some doubts in some steps, so what you will do? So there is a saying which says like if you can't solve a harder problem, then solve the simple ones. Okay. So that doesn't mean ignoring the problem which your interviewer have gave you and start solving like something like 2 plus 2 equals, so let's solve 2 plus 2. It's totally silly, right? So what I mean, let's discuss. Okay, so this is a point which we are going to discuss today, like solve or simplify them, right? So let's jump into it quickly. Let me find the right place, like where it is. Okay, yeah. So yeah, as I was saying, like if you cannot solve a problem, okay, then solve the simpler ones. So what I mean by that? So that simply means you just have to simplify the problem. Okay. So let's discuss a little bit like what is simplify? What I mean by simplify. Okay. So simplify is something like find the core difficulty in what you are doing, what you are trying to do, and then temporarily ignore that difficulty, right? And then write the simplified solution and then incorporate the difficulty back in. Okay, so let's understand these steps. So let's say you got a problem, you understood the problem, you broken it down into sub problems. Okay, but there is a sub problem where you are getting hard time to solve it, right? So instead of getting stuck at that particular problem, what you should do, you should like ignore that for time being, and you should progress to the next sub problems. You should start solving the next sub problem. So in order to show interviewer like you are progressing somewhere, right? Instead of getting stuck in that particular problem where you're facing hard time to solve that and doing zero progress, you should jump on to the next sub problem and start solving them. Okay, because end of the day, interviewer wants to just see your progress, right? Okay, so if you get stuck in the problem where you are facing some hard time, then you will make zero progress and you will just waste the time of the interviewer, right? So this is what the strategy we should take. Like if you got a problem, if you have broken it down into sub problems, then in case, let's say if the first sub problem itself, like you are facing some hard time, you are unable to understand like how to solve it. Okay, then what you do, you just ignore that for time being. You have to save your time, you continue on the other sub problems which you have written down. Okay, and then once you start solving other sub problems, you will eventually gain some insights of like how you have to approach the problem, the first sub problem where you are facing some hard time, where you are getting stuck, where you are getting no idea how to solve this one. Okay, so the same way I'm going to solve the problem in this lecture to show you like how we can tackle that. Okay, so yeah, so what we will do, instead of putting all the eggs in one basket, we will simply continue solving the other sub problems, and then we will come back to the problem where we will get stuck. Okay, where we are getting stuck, right? So let's pick the same example as from the previous lecture. Let's copy this. Okay, write a function which takes a string and returns count of each character. Okay, so let's assume like I have done all the steps which I have mentioned in the past few lectures. Like I understood the problem, I wrote some concrete examples, and then I broken it down into sub problems. Okay, let's copy this directly here, and I hope you guys can see my screen, right? So I believe I'm not getting any errors, right? Yeah, I'm not getting any errors, right? Okay, so let's solve it step by step. I've already wrote down all these steps, right? These are not the thorough steps, and if you define the thorough steps, that's well and good. That will help you a lot to solve the problem. Okay, so let's see. Like I have wrote down some comments, right? How we can solve it. So here, let's say this is the easiest one, right? You just have to create a variable or an object, an empty object, which will store the numeric values. or whatever we want to return as a result. Okay, so let's quickly create the object cons, let's say final result, and let's keep it as empty object. Okay, now in case if you are facing hard time in looping through the array, then obviously you are not going to get the job, because that's a basic thing you have to understand, like how to loop through some string or array or something, or any data structure, right? So in case if you are unable to loop it, then how you should tackle it, right? So what you should do, you should start focusing on the these steps, like whichever is written inside the loop. Okay, so you should take a character, you store a character like this, you store a character in this one, okay, like this, and then try to solve these steps for that particular variable. Okay, and if you are able to do that, then hard code all the variables which are written in the text. Obviously it's not going to get you a job, but this is how you can learn, right? And in case if you're practicing at home only, then it's going to help you a lot. Okay, so this way you can follow these steps and you can solve it. Okay, and then at the end you have to return the object which is filled with data, right? So yeah, let's we have created the object. Let's now return it at the end, because these are the easiest steps, right? So, here what I have to do, return the object which I am creating here. We don't have to even think twice, like returning the same thing, right? Here we have just created the object, and this one here we have to simply return the object, right, which is filled with array. Let's assume for now like this object is filled with some data. Okay, now we have to loop through the string or array. Okay, so let's loop through it. So there are multiple ways of looping it, I believe you guys might know already. Like we can make use of let I equals to 0, I is smaller than what is that, text, right? Text dot length I plus plus. Okay, there is this way where we can loop through the array, or there is another way where we can say let char. Obviously it's not gonna overlap with this one because this is in this for loop. Okay, and then here we have to remove all these incremental things of text. This one looks a little bit cleaner, so I'll go with this one. Okay, I'll comment this out for the reference, for your guys reference. Okay, like so. Okay, or let's use that basic one. Let me show you how this one will work. Let me show you this one in directly in browser. Okay, how this one will work. So we already have the text defined here, right? We don't have the text defined, so we'll run it directly in the browser to show you like how this one will work. Then we will jump into this one, how to solve, like how to use this one. Okay, so I already have my browser up and running here, so let me quickly show you that, guys. Okay, so I already started getting something here. Okay, I don't even have to log it, right? So as you can see, I'm getting the character. Okay, so let me quickly add a string here to make sure it is coming from here only, right? Okay, so yeah, it is coming from this for loop only. So with this one we can directly access the text, or we can directly access the element. Okay, if we are looping through some object or data structure. Okay, so right now it's just a string, so I directly started accessing the characters which were there in the string. Okay, so quite simple, quite straightforward. You can use this one, but I'll go with this one, because most of the beginners face hard time, like they have to try to understand like how this one is working, right? So this one might be quite new for some of them, so let's keep it simple. Let's keep using this one. Okay, so here let's move these steps inside the for loop. Okay, right, so now let me quickly stretch it back. Okay, so now this is the second step we have written. Okay, first step was like creating an object and then returning it at the end. Okay, now we are looping through the text. Okay, now in this looping, like what we have to do, okay, we have to see if the text is correct, if the if the character in the text is alphanumeric and it's not there in the object, and so add it as a key with the value 1, otherwise keep looping through the array. Already, if it is already there, then we have to increment its value, right? So right now, if you think like most of the beginners will get stuck in this part, right? They will not get any idea. They will face some little bit of hard time of identifying like how we can exactly check the alphanumeric value. So in this thing, what we can do, we are looping already in the text, right? So we'll start identifying the rest of the things. Okay, so what we have to do, first we have to implement like the logic where we are checking if the key is present in the object or not. If it is not present, we have to add 1 to it. We have to add that key, otherwise we have to increment its value. Okay, so let's see how we can do that. So if someone asks me like how I would do it, so I'll simply write the if condition. If the where is the object? Okay, here is the object, right? So there are actually multiple ways. In this object we can actually access that key directly, text at position I. If that key is available in this object, so it will return either undefined, okay, or it will return the value of this key. Fine. So in both the cases, it will either return true or false, right? It will go in either inside of this if condition or it will not. Okay, so if the key is present in the object, that means if the key already have some value, right? So what I have to do, or let's use if the key is not there, okay, in the object, if there is no such key in the object, then in that case we have to add the key like so, and then we have to store 1 to it. Okay, so far so good, right? So this is what we have done. So let me quickly write this step here. Okay, so for now let's just cut this part. If the text is not there in the object, and add it as a key with value 1. Okay, so that is what we have done. Otherwise what I have to do, I have to pick this one. Okay, so let's pick this one and let's solve it. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll use the else condition. Okay, so obviously if the key is already there, right, so it will go inside the else part, right? So in else we don't have to pass any condition. Okay, so what we have to do, we simply have to increment its value like so. Okay, so as you have seen, I have solved the way like where I'm not getting stuck in any problem, right? I'm not getting stuck in any step, and whichever I think like I can face some hard time, I have ignored that part for time being. Okay, so far what I have done is I created an object, I am looping through the array or looping through the string, and I am storing that string in the object. Okay, so let's now yeah, and I'm returning it at the end. So we are almost there, we are almost at the end of the solution, like we have almost covered 90% of the problem, right? So let's quickly test it. Okay, so character count, let's pass string of hello. So as you can see, okay, so as you can see, I already started getting my solution, right? E1, H1, L twice, and O1. Okay, let's try another one. So let's say hi H with one uppercase and one with lowercase. Okay, so here we are getting H as 1 and then this H as 1, and then we are getting empty space. It is also getting counted, right? And this is not what we have to focus right now, because you have to assume like we don't have any idea like how we can do it. Okay, so we'll keep it for the last step. We'll solve it at the end. Okay, I'll show you the solution of like how to ignore these special characters and how to work with, especially with alphanumeric characters. There are actually multiple solutions, like you can store all the values, like all the alphabets and characters in one array, and you can loop through it to check the valid inputs. That's probably one of the most worst idea. There is some other solution which you can use. You can use something so called regular expressions, okay, to check whether the character is alphanumeric or not. Okay, so those sort of things we will see in the next lecture, where we will be refactoring this solution. Okay, So I'll give you a little idea, like we'll create a separate function which will particularly check whether a character is alphanumeric or not, and it will return whether true or false or some sort of stuff. Okay, so yeah, so now we have to handle, like we have to convert it into the lowercase, right? Because right now it's taking these two h separately, right? So there are two ways. Either you can lowercase this text right before the for loop, like const lower text, okay, dot to lowercase, okay, and then you can loop through it like so. So let's see if it is working. Okay, it's not working. I think the text is a string only, I believe, or two lowercase is also the correct method I've used. Let's see, dot to lowercase, right? So this is the one which we have used, and I believe I've used the same thing, right? Okay, yeah, why it's not working? Because it's still I'm using that text at position I, right? So instead of that I have to use this two lowercase everywhere. Okay, so either you can do it like this. Let's remove it and then let's check quickly. Okay, yeah, so now I'm getting h twice. It's converting all the like characters in the string into lowercase, and then it started counting, right? So we got h twice, and then I once, l twice, o once, empty space once. Okay, so we are almost there at the end of the solution, right? All we need to do is we need to handle the alphanumeric characters. Okay, so this way you can ask the interviewer, like right now I have two three different approaches coming into my mind, but I don't know like which one is the optimal one. So could you help me getting like some solution of it, like how we can achieve this particular part? Because interview will also see like you have almost covered 90% of the solution, right? So let me quickly zoom it. As you can see, interviewer will also see like you have almost covered 90% of your part, and you have already wrote down the steps. Then he's sure like if he give you some suggestion, then you are gonna solve it for sure. Okay, you will reach your solution, you will reach your end part of the solution 100%, right? So he'll be quite confident on you, and most of the times that is what he wants, right? So yeah, in this we can lowercase it here, or if you want you can lowercase every character like inside the for loop. But this way like you have to call this method every time, so it's better like lowercasing everything before going into the for loop. Okay, so this way you can solve it down into the uh, like you can solve the sub problems like this. Okay, so right now there is just one thing left, which is checking if the character is alphanumeric or not, right? So this one we will see in the next lecture. Okay, so I'll quickly remove this part. Okay, so these are the steps. Let's remove this one as well, because this is also not required for now, right? Yeah, I'll keep this here as a reference, and yeah, I'll add this particular piece of code in the description of the video, in case if you want to understand a little bit better about this one. So I'll add it in the description. Okay, you can check my description of this video and you will find this snippet, right? So yeah, in the next lecture what we will do, we'll simply handle this particular part of the problem, like checking the character is alphanumeric or not, and then we will refactor our code a little bit, and I'll tell you like why it is important. Even if you have solved the problem 80%, 90%, or even 100%. Okay, so refactoring can impact your solution a lot. If it is not refactored, then your interviewer will not find it up to the mark, right? So you have to optimize your code, you have to refactor it, because how refactoring will help you, like it will help other developers. If you go into some industry, it will help other developers to like understand your code very easily, right? And they can reuse the pieces of your code in their own code in case if they want. Okay, so that is why we make it reusable. Okay, so that other peoples can also use it, and we remove all the duplicate stuff. Okay, so yeah, this is it for this lecture, guys. See you in the next one.